I don't think the biggest reveal from Wuthering Waves' 3.5 livestream was a character, or even the new region. The more I watched it, the more I started feeling like this livestream was genuinely setting the direction for the next chapter of the entire game, not because it dropped some massive plot twist, but because of the little things. The place we're going, the characters Kuro decided to focus on, the way they're introducing Yangyang's new form. Individually, none of those reveals seemed that groundbreaking. Put them together though, and they start painting a pretty interesting picture of where Wuthering Waves wants to go after Lahai-Roi. Now, obviously, this is just a live stream. We haven't actually played any of it yet, so I'm not here to overanalyze every tiny detail or pretend I already know how the story is going to unfold. Instead, I just want to talk about the three things that stood out to me the most. Because if Kuro delivers on what they showed us today, I think Wuthering Waves might be setting itself up for a really exciting next chapter. The first thing that caught my attention during the livestream wasn't a new character, it wasn't even the story, it was the region. Because after everything we've experienced over the past year, Wuthering Waves is finally taking us back to Huanglong, or at least another part of it. And I don't know, there is something strangely exciting about that. When we left Jinzhou for Rinasida, it genuinely felt like we were leaving one chapter of the game behind and starting another. The atmosphere changed, the architecture changed, even the storytelling started feeling different. Now we're doing the exact opposite. We're going back to the Eastern inspired aesthetics that Wuthering Waves started with. Except we're not really going back, we're moving forward. That distinction is actually what makes this interesting. Because the Wuthering Waves that created Jinzhou isn't the same Wuthering Waves we have today. The environments are more detailed, the art direction has become even stronger, the team clearly has a lot more confidence in how they build regions. So while this new area immediately feels familiar, I'm also really curious to see just how much they've improved since the beginning of the game. Honestly, that's probably the part I'm looking forward to the most. Seeing Huanglong again through the lens of everything Kuro has learned over the last year. But then, the livestream showed something that made me stop for a second. Apparently, the place we're visiting isn't even one of Huanglong's major cities, it's simply the entrance to Mengzhou. And we're going to spend roughly 3 updates there. Just take a second to think about that. When Wuthering Waves launched, Jinzhou felt massive. It was our entire world. Now we find out that Jinzhou is only one city inside one nation. And that area we're about to explore is only the entrance to another region within the same nation. That suddenly changes your sense of scale. The world feels much bigger than it did before, not because someone told us it was big, because we're finally starting to see it. And I think that's one of the biggest strengths of long-running stories. The world doesn't just grow through exposition, it grows because the audience slowly realizes how much they still haven't seen. If Mengzhou starts with what is essentially its front door, imagine what the rest of it could look like. What kinds of cities are waiting deeper inside? What cultures haven't we met yet? What stories haven't even been hinted at? Those are the kinds of questions that immediately started popping into my head during the livestream. And honestly, I think that's exactly what you want from a reveal like this. Not answers, possibilities. Because that's what this region feels like right now. A reminder that despite everything Rover has gone through, we've probably only seen a tiny fraction of Wuthering Waves' world. And if this is just the beginning of Mengzhou, I have a feeling Kuro still has quite a few surprises waiting for us. Of course, a new region also means new characters, and honestly, I think Kuro did a pretty good job here. The first one that immediately caught my attention was Sui Sui, not just because I like her design, although, yeah, they definitely cooked there too. It's the fact that she's Yangyang's sister, that immediately gives her something a lot of new characters need, connections. She's not entering the story as someone completely isolated. She already has a relationship with one of the oldest characters in the game, which means there's a good chance her introduction can feel much more natural than simply, here's a new character, please pull for them. I'm really curious to see how those two interact. Then there's Danjin, and I have to admit, I wasn't expecting to see her getting her own side story. She's one of those characters that people have wanted to see more of for a long time, so it's nice to see Kuro go back and give some of the older cast more attention. That's actually something I've been hoping Wuthering Waves would continue doing. The longer a live service game runs, the more important recurring characters become. You don't want every update to feel like you're throwing away the previous cast just to introduce the next one. So seeing Danjin return is definitely a nice surprise. But let's be honest, as exciting as those reveals are, they're not the biggest reveal of this livestream, not even close. The title belongs to Yangyang, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. For the first time since Wuthering Waves launched, we're getting an entirely new version of an existing character. That is a really important step, not just for Yangyang, but for the game itself. Because this isn't simply just another character banner, it's Kuro establishing a precedent. Sooner or later, more characters are probably going to receive new versions as well, which means however Kuro handles Yangyang now is very likely going to become the standard moving forward. That's why I'm so interested in seeing how this plays out. Not because I'm worried they'll sell a new version, that's expected. I'm much more interested in what the new version actually means. Does it feel earned? Does it feel like a natural evolution of Yangyang's journey? Or does it simply exist because the game needed another banner? Those are two very different things. And after everything Wuthering Waves has done over the past year, I'm actually leaning toward the first option. Still, this is one of those moments that can set expectations for years to come. If Yangyang's new form lands well, future awakenings suddenly become much easier to get excited about. If it doesn't, well, people are going to remember that too. So while the new region is what I'm most excited to explore, Yangyang is probably the reveal I'm most curious about. Because I don't think she's just introducing a new character. I think she's introducing a completely new direction for Wuthering Waves. And from what the livestream showed us, the story seems to understand just how important that is. Now, as excited as I am about the region and the characters, there is one thing I'm probably looking forward to more than anything else. The story, or more specifically, how Wuthering Waves is going to introduce Yangyang's new form. Because, from everything the livestream showed us, this doesn't look like a character that's simply going to appear and say, hey, here's my new version. Quite the opposite, it actually looks like the entire opening of this new region revolves around her. Yangyang disappears, something clearly happens to her, and Rover's first objective becomes finding her and understanding what's going on. Honestly, I love that setup. Not because it's Yangyang specifically, although seeing one of the very first characters finally take center stage is definitely exciting. I like it because it immediately gives her new form narrative weight. That's something I always hope to see with alternate versions of characters in gacha games. Too often they feel disconnected from the story, a new design, a new kit, maybe a short explanation, then everyone moves on. I'm hoping Kuro does something different. I'm hoping Yangyang's new form feels like the payoff to her journey instead of the beginning of another banner. And if the livestream is anything to go by, that's exactly the direction they're taking. The fact that the story seems to revolve around her from the very beginning is already a really good sign. It tells me that this isn't just a gameplay update, it's a story update. And honestly, that's probably the best compliment I can give Wuthering Waves right now. Over the last year, one of the biggest improvements have been the way the writers have started treating character moments as genuine parts of the narrative instead of isolated highlights. Characters don't just show up anymore, they usually have a reason to be there. Their growth matters, their relationships matter, their role in the conflict matters. So naturally, I'm expecting the same thing here, especially because Yangyang is the first character to receive this kind of evolution. Whether Kuro intended or not, she's setting a standard. Because players will know those transformations aren't just happening for gameplay reasons, they're becoming milestones in the story itself. And that's exactly what I want them to be. Overall, I think this livestream did exactly what it needed to do. It gave us a beautiful new region to explore, it introduced some genuinely interesting new characters, and more importantly, it left me with a lot of questions that I actually want the story to answer. That's always a good sign. Now all that's left is to see whether Wuthering Waves can deliver on that promise once the update finally arrives. Of course, this is only a small part of everything the livestream revealed. There were plenty of other announcements too, new gameplay, events, quality of life updates, and a lot of features that I'm sure people are excited about. But if you've been following this channel for a while, you probably already know why I didn't spend much time talking about those. What always interests me the most is the story, the characters, the world. Those are the things that keep bringing me back to Wuthering Waves every update, and honestly, after this livestream, I feel like there is a lot to look forward to. Not because we already have all the answers, but because Kuro gave us just enough to make me curious about what's coming next. Now we just have to wait and see if the update can live up to that promise. But those are just my first impressions after watching the livestream. What reveal caught your attention the most? Are you more excited about the new region, the new characters, or Yangyang's new form? Let me know that in the comments. Anyway, that's gonna be all from me for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.